Boom! I'm Shane from Grapple Culture. This is Jiu Jitsu Shit Talk, and today I had a chat with Gautier. Gautier. I'm pretty sure my French isn't the best, but Gautier is from France and he's currently living in Romania. He's played tons of table tennis, but for the last 12 months has just gotten obsessed with Jiu Jitsu. So we actually connected because he was just training in Greece. I was looking for a place to train and he recommended that I go and train at Level Jiu Jitsu. Let's have a chat. So we got quite involved in the chat. We ended up talking about how digital nomads can use Jiu Jitsu to meet people and like bring their training and learning and stuff with them everywhere they go. That was pretty cool. The correlations between knowing other sports, being good at other sports, and then bringing that across to Jiu Jitsu, and then vice versa. How language barriers work in different countries. Yeah, we got super deep, and then he even asked me a few cool questions right at the end. So have a listen, drop a comment, tell me what you reckon, and enjoy the pod.
Wife, which I think if I speak inside, it's a bit better, but you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
you tell me if it's right like this. I think it's the best to have instead of me having the headphones and stuff like this. But yeah,
Yeah, man, that's perfect there. I'll just as I go along, I'll figure out better settings and that kind of
sure,
thing.
sure.
But to be honest, as long as the audio is reasonable and the lighting's acceptable on the video, I mostly want to be like about content and about like the people that I'm kind of talking to. So like
Sure.
yourself and that sort of thing. And the reason I've actually started this is a lot of podcasts are people that are like interested in jujitsu and like say blue belts, people that have like, okay, I really want to explore jujitsu and learn about it. And they tend to be people that are newer in the game. And then they usually talk to people that have been doing jujitsu for 10 years or are
Mm-hmm.
competitors or, and it tends to be like a lot of the same questions. So like a lot of new people say, hey, what was it like when you started? And so you get like a lot of the same stories. It was, us training on like small thin mats and it was a lot of just people trying to tear each other's head off. And then we kind of learned different things as we went along. So I'm kind of I'm sort of doing it the other way because I've been doing jujitsu now for about 20 years and I've traveled around quite a bit. Like I always traveled around Australia and I did jujitsu wherever I was there.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm traveling around the world, I'm extremely interested in the people that do jujitsu and the different like cultures that I see and the different ways that affects the different gyms. So yeah, I try to when people are like say like experienced white belts or early blue belts, they are the people that I really want to speak to because I find that as long as they're kind of committed to the journey, then I'm interested to speak to. If not, if they're just kind of like people that are just a bit like, I'm just doing it for fun. But I'm interested in speaking to the people that I'm like, let's say they've been training for about 12 months, but they're like, I really want to do jujitsu for the long haul. I'm interested to speak to those people like now, and then hopefully again in like a few years where I can kind of go, hey, what's your opinion? What's your opinion now? And now I can compare it to, where they get
At,
to in the future.
at that time, yeah, for
Mm.
sure.
So
I
that's kind of my goal with what I'm doing now,
No, that's cool. It's cool.
and that's
I
why
guess.
the channel's called Jiu Jitsu Shit Talk, because there's that, and there's also like this. I don't actually. I'll ask you. I'll get your opinion on this. There tends to be this like a thing in the jiu-jitsu culture where it's kind of like, oh, if you're like a white belt, well, don't go and ask the black belt for a role. And also don't ask the coach why they're great. And there's sort of like there's certain questions you can ask, but like don't really ask. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like there's like I don't know, there's this we're not going to tell you no, we're not going to tell you what it is. The black belts will never tell you what it is, but hey, don't cross that line. And I'm kind of trying to, wherever I go, and like in my own school, when I was running that, I've always been about like, yeah, no questions off limits. Like I might laugh and go, oh, well, yeah, whatever. But in my opinion, black belts and coaches and that kind of thing, they kind of put this invisible barrier to new people and that up a lot of the time because they don't know the answers or they're unwilling to kind of be challenged. So they're kind of like, they put up this kind of wall, like, don't ask me for a role,
Hmm.
and don't ask me why I graded this person to that, and don't ask me about this and that. I'm kind of like, well, ask me, but I may not have the answer, but I'll say like I don't have the answer, but I'm like open to learn. And I feel like as soon as you stop as soon as you stop asking yourself the right questions, and as soon as you stop being challenged, then you kind of like stop your own growth as a human. So I'm kind of like I kind of want to be, hey, ask me anything. If I know the answer, I'll be more than happy to answer. If I'm not sure, I'll just say I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like my whole life, I've been about keeping the kids' questions, which is the why, you know?
Mhm.
Why is that? Why do we do this? And I think a lot of people, when they become adults, they don't ask this question anymore.
Mm.
Especially when you do some martial art that are a bit more traditional. Um, like even if I understand that sometimes you need to do the move properly in order to then correct things or modify things. Like I don't imagine someone 1 year in any martial art that would come and say, "Oh, I think we should do like this because let's get the proper form and then you can tweak it later with the experience." But
Mm.
you need to be able to ask, why do we do this? And ask the person like, okay, what's the logic behind it? Because um, if there is no logic, then you don't get the purpose, in my
Exactly.
opinion.
Mm. Mm.
So I've been doing a different kind of thing, but never on a very, very long run. The only sport that I did for a very long time is table tennis. So it's.
Really?
I could give patterns between sport, and I can tell you things that are the same, or placement or things like this that are different depending on what you do. But
Mm.
when I was a kid, I did judo for a couple of years. Then I did
Right.
football. Then I went for football was great because I like to be with people. But mindset wise was not really something that, if you're not on the top tier of players, you're always put aside. You have this kind of thing. Everyone think they're the new Beckham, the new Mbappe, whatever. So I'm like, all right, let's move to a sport that I can do. I did table tennis from my 14 years old to, I mean, without stop for 10 years, and then I stopped a bit and restarted, and then I moved to martial art again because I really started watching stuff, and then I did Kwankido, which is a more traditional martial art, but our teacher from the small town in Romania was there for a long time. He also knew how to fight in the street, so he was not only teaching us, kata and stuff like this. It was more, hands-on things. And then after I did a bit of boxing in gyms, on and on. And then there's a moment I was like, okay, I need to redo something proper. Like, let's reestablish my life, maybe stop smoking, reducing those kind of stuff and be like, and then a year ago in August, basically, I was in holiday and I was like, okay, I need to find something. And then I check around my place and I knew Jiu-Jitsu because I'm watching MMA. In France, there's a very famous channel called Karate Bushido, which is present a lot of martial art, and I followed them for a long time. So I was like,
Mm.
okay, let's try Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, I know remind me my years of judo, and in the same time, I know it's kind of useful for self-defense and things like this. And so yeah, I started last year, and then since then I'm doing free time training a week, more or less. Sometimes two, sometimes four, depending on the week. But I try to keep this consistency. And then I started competition after 6 months, and then I did like two free competitions, and then recently I was like, okay, I'm a software engineer, but I'd like to do something more with people. Um, what can I do? And then I basically like, okay, I'm nomading. I'm going let's say 5 to 6 months a year. I'm outside of Romania and I'm traveling around. Um, the community is quite nice usually as people that are digital nomads. And then the BJJ community is quite nice because when I went in holiday in Greece, as you went to the Love Jiu Jitsu, where Lucas was very welcoming. And then I went to the north of Romania. The guy was very welcoming also there. And then I went to Italy after, and I was like, okay, maybe there is something to do with this. And then over time, you get to know Jiu-Jitsu, you need to know like how things work a bit with like, the franchise system kind of thing. And also
Mm.
you see all those debates, which I'm not entering into it because I don't know, but everyone is talking, you get your belt only because you stay. Some people say we should have
Yes.
exam, all those things.
Cool. Yes,
And
yes.
and then in my mind, I was like, okay, let's forget about those politics, but I like to meet other people because I think you grow from diversity. Even
Mm.
in my job, I'm a specialist in IT, but I have also two sides of my job, and I could be a specialist in one side, a specialist in another, but I couldn't choose, so I'm in between. And
Right.
so for me, it's always
So
been interesting to do that.
sorry, I kind of just jumped in here and I'm like, hey, this is kind of what happened with me, like, and then you've given me like a nice little background. But just probably for anyone listening and also for myself. So you're like originally from Romania, right?
No, I'm from France originally.
Oh, so you're originally from France.
Yes.
And when how old were you when you moved to Romania?
I moved in Romania in 2014, so
Okay, so
11 years ago. Yeah. My wife is Romanian. We met during studies.
mm,
Then I moved to Romania, stayed 2 years here, then traveled to Portugal because I had the opportunity for a job there. I
yep,
worked for software, I mean, a company that was from the UK, but had a office in Portugal.
right.
And then after we came back to Romania, and in 2019 we started to be nomad and travel around, basically.
Okay. And so have you guys like sold up and you're just like moving around from place to place?
No,
Or
so
you still
our
have a
home
home
base is
base?
Romania.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
home base is Romania. It's a nice place to be for many months, but we like also to travel and stuff. So we kind of choose, like, for example, when it starts to be very cold and bad weather here and gray and sad and everything, we are
Mm.
trying to travel. And then after, depending on friends or opportunities, for example, during COVID, we went to Madeira in Portugal, the small island next to Africa, which was really cool because it was less constraining there. You just do a PCR test and it was great. And we met a lot of people from all over the place. Um, we started our first experience as nomad was Bali. Bali is like, the Mecca
Ah,
of
yes.
uh, of
Yeah.
nomads.
Yep.
And then during COVID, it became even more famous because everyone was like, "Oh, I'm in Bali," and everything. Um, but yeah, so I mean, we like to have our home place, and I like to be settled a bit more. But traveling is also refreshing. This is why we are not fully
Mm.
nomad, but we're not fully home based. We are doing a mix. So you'll see this pattern will repeat in my life in many angles. I have a double standard because I think you bring the two lifestyle bring you a lot of things, and then one
Yeah.
is missing. So.
Yeah. And so you're saying with your work, because you obviously being like a software engineer kind of thing, so you're mostly developing like apps or helping people like integrate systems into their website.
So I've been working as what we call system of information. So basically making web apps, mainly
Mm.
application on your browser. And
Yeah.
I'm not doing the design, but I put the design in place, which is called in our domain front end. And then the back end, which is the server, access to the data, databases and things. And when you do all of this, it's called full stack. That's what I am. I don't do
Nice.
design. I don't do extreme data analysis like, data scientists. I'm in between. So if I would
Right.
give you an example of a famous app that you may know, I didn't work for them, but it's just to give you an idea because most of the app I worked for are not that famous, but maybe one, I would say. But if we imagine Airbnb, I'll be able to make in place the logging where people can see the listing, get the listing of apartment, the filters, the design, stuff like this.
Wow. Yeah.
That's what I would do, you know. Right
Mm.
now, I used to be employed for many years, and in 2019, when I came back to Romania after Portugal, I opened my own firm, and then I started to work full time for small, longer contract, shorter contract, part time, depending, you know. And then more recently, I moved to a more so software engineering and programmer as a service per project or per hour, depending on how you want to work. I'm very open to that. But also CTO on demand, so Chief Technical Officer, mainly for people that are non-tech. My point is to keep my understanding of the technology, but be able to lower down my vocabulary for you to understand what I'm talking about. And also, if, for example, you want to build something, like I had someone that wanted to build a marketplace for osteopaths and people, you know, like the kind of medical domain. And I told him, look, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Maybe you'll go to see a firm and they will tell you it's X amount. I don't think so. You need to build that. You need to build this. And then from that, if this
Mm.
is working, you can move on. And because sometimes people have very long vision, and the software engineering companies tend to try to sell much more than what it is needed at that time, you know?
Yes.
So my point is to advise because I work for startups and scale-ups, companies that were maybe with 20 employees to 200 employees. And they
Mm.
started from a small product to something bigger. And I had the chance to see the iteration way of making things
Yeah.
instead of, you know, thinking like, oh, you're going to be a bit like if someone would come to you and say, I want to be a black belt in BJJ. You're like, wait a minute. Start doing 1 year and then you do the next year and then you'll get blue belt and then you improve your thing. And then when you start to be purple belt or brown belt, you can think of opening your gym maybe in a couple of years. You know, it's kind of the same mindset, you know?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And jiu-jitsu is cool for because it's got that a nice like progression thing, but then as you go, you tend to it's like you learn a different language. It's like as soon as you've been training for a while, it's like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, I'm this belt or I'm that belt. And it's like, oh, we can talk on that level.
Yeah, for me also like I always see BJJ like a chess game, you know?
Mm.
Where I'm very big. I play on chess.com very often. I'm not super great, but I like to play. And it's the same thing. Like you know some techniques, you know some moves. You need to link them together. So how do I reach this position, and you know, in order to be see my weak points, like see where I'm leaving actually the door, what the opponent can do, and then from that. Even though in real life, you know, people can play two moves at once and then you're a bit slower, and in chess is very fixed, is one, you, me, you know. But I think in
Mm.
BJJ, it's kind of that thing, like you have this action reaction, as we call it in French, where you, let's say, I push you, so you will react, or you will push me back, or you will pull me, and we have this back and forth. It's a bit like when you play a move. I play a move, okay, now you see where I'm going. Okay, now I'm going to play, then you play, you know, kind of the idea.
100%. I'm actually yeah, I mean I'm interested in like I think about it in the same sort of a way. And I'm also interested in like I don't know if you've heard of like the CLA style of training and that kind of thing. There's like different ways about actually learning. But just before we move on, you were talking about like obviously in like computer design and app design, that sort of thing. There's a whole massive like vocabulary, and
Hmm.
there's a whole world in there
Yeah.
that I completely don't understand. I actually know that I don't understand because I have some friends that are developing different apps for jiu-jitsu and like integrating and that sort of thing, and traveling obviously on booking.com and Uber and Airbnb and that
Mm.
kind of thing. And I'm like, right. And then you look and then you kind of like try to understand how they work. And it's like, wow, there is some like really crazy stuff that goes on. What is for somebody that's like I've kind of got like a long-term idea of eventually doing like my own like app and that sort of thing, just to understand like a little bit more of the words and that sort of thing. Would you just say get on YouTube every so often and just like watch a little bit of a video of people talking about it? Or have you got like an idea just to so that I've got, in say a year or so when I'm ready to start putting my app into like fruition, so that I know like a few of the words and I can not sound like a complete idiot, yeah, where would you sort of go, hey, look, get on this place or go on that place and just to start learning, what would be your first steps?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know if there is any place that would give you term explanation. Like, I
Mm,
mean, even if we like to share in the IT world between each other the knowledge, I don't think so. We very much explain to people. So you probably find some guy on YouTube that would make a video explaining some things, but I don't know a famous. Maybe you could start to go to a platform that will teach you how to program, and then they will explain to you this because you will have to learn like more of this.
mm,
For example, one of the things that I discovered that I like to do this thing is that a couple of years ago, a friend of mine took a manager position at IBM, and
mm.
he was a business person. He did business school. He didn't do IT at all. He had a few knowledge of vocabulary, but nothing. So was in meetings where people around him would talk like, we need to do a database migration and we need to do whatever. And it was like, okay, I don't understand anything they're saying here. So we've spent like maybe 2, 3 hours, like out, like 4, 5, half an hour, let's say, more or less, bits by bits. Like one evening he would call me and he was like, okay, there was this word and this thing, and like explain them to me. So I was explaining him the vocabulary that he has in his face. I think most of the time you wouldn't need so much to do this until you build a product yourself, and then I think you need to be accompanied by someone that you will learn the vocabulary in IT with, and then the person will teach you, like you will teach them your business idea, and then they will teach you their domain. For example, I work with a
Yes.
customer that is in insurance, let's say, and then I'm learning, okay, what's our the different words and different things. We have the policy insurance, and we have the offers before the policy, stuff like this. And then I'm going to explain to her, okay, look, we have this in the server. When you have a problem there, we are talking about that. And sometimes she's like, oh, we have a problem there. Can you do something? I'm like, no, that's not part of what we're working on. This is made by another team at another moment, and it's handled by them. And. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you can always do the homework before to learn the vocabulary and to be able to face people that are technical. But I would say most of the time that's my job, not yours. I should come to your level. I should be prepared to work on different domain, um,
Mm,
and and then you should be able to, like, you might come toward me, but later, not at the beginning. It makes no sense
yeah,
for
for
you
sure.
to know the vocabulary. You need to understand that it's possible, how much it's going to cost you, and what are the risks, basically.
Yeah.
Um, but also, I come from a background where in France, a lot of schools are very generalists. Out of 7 classes per semester, 2 or 3 are general classes. They are not IT oriented, they are languages, they are business oriented, they're
Ah,
business intelligence, accounting. So when we get out of engineering, we know engineering, but we know also a lot of basis domain knowledge, which allow us to
mhm.
adapt to the work environment.
Yeah. It's it's kind of I think that's almost like a good thing in that like I know it sort of pre-primes you to be like, okay, I've got my qualification, I have the piece of paper, but this is basically this piece of paper is my ticket to learn. It's not that doesn't mean I'm the professional. It means I'm a professional at learning what I need to do to achieve the outcome.
Yeah, after it depends. In if France, I think that would be a different podcast, to be honest. So I'm not going to go too deep on it. But we have two type of school in France mainly. One, what you would translate in English technical degree, where it's 2 years technical degree, 3 years technical degree, where you basically can work after that. And then
Hmm.
we have the more license, master, doctorate kind of thing, which is graduate, postgraduate, if I have the good vocabulary on that, and basically it's a bit more generic. So maybe the path toward this is to go to do a doctorate or research, something like this, while the other is a bit more work. And then in between, we have the master level, but engineering schools, which give you an engineering degree, while the master doesn't give you an engineering degree. And those guys are a mix between people that are preparation school, very deep into math, physics, very deep in depth, and technical people like me, and we meet again at the engineering part. And then I needed to do mathematics mandatory because it's known not to be very good at mathematics come the technical degree, or at least not as developed as the other guys. But those guys needed to do more core programming basic class, you know? So we arrived
Mm,
together, we are a bit different, and after 1 year, we should be more or less at the same level. And then 2 more years later, we get our graduation. And
right.
so it's a bit different tracks, but I studied also in England, and there it was very class oriented. Like you had a teacher that do that class, a teacher that do that class, and then at the end you have a bunch of technical class. For us, it's a bit different. It's more like a program, and sometime in some school you can choose, but it's not as free, let's say, in terms of knowledge. So but as I said, it's very complex. But basically, we have this thing where you can be very technical and work directly on it, and those studies are a bit shorter. And then if you go a bit longer, you have a mix of both, where you have a bit of more generality there. And language, for example, is one of them. You need to have a B2 level at another language to be able to get your diploma. If not, you wouldn't get your graduation.
Ah, okay. So part of the degree is
Yeah,
learning a
it's
language as
mandatory now
well.
in France to have a B2 level. Most of people do it in English because, it's the language, international language, but some
Mm,
of other people got it with German or Chinese or Korean, depending on what they like and what they invested their time in. I was very
yes.
bad in English, so I had to I had to go abroad in order to come back to a quite decent level of understanding. So yeah.
Right, right. Well, your English is quite good now, though.
Thank you. I mean, I'm trying, and then after a while, and now I learn Romanian also. But at school, when I was in high school, I was really bad. My grade were very very bad. But I knew it was something I needed to do. That's why I left abroad also, and that's why I enjoy also this diversity, like going to meet other culture and other way of thinking. So.
That's exactly what I was about to ask you. So, like you, obviously, you've been here to Greece and Italy, and you've trained with like different schools, and obviously, there's quite a few. The English is quite well spoken here,
Mhm.
but it's also not completely well spoken. How did you go, like going to classes, and were you just like trying to get by with the English, or did you pick up Greek quite well?
So the thing is like this, in Romania, everyone speaks English most of the time.
Right.
But the class, when I'm the only foreigner, the class is in Romanian because I understand the language is no problem at all. I
Mm.
actually learned Romanian better when I did Conquido a few years ago because my teacher was doing everything in Romanian, no English, and I learned all the body parts in Romanian due to that. So it
Ah,
was
yes.
because martial art is very physical. You understand like a kid that never spoke any language. You don't need a translation. You just understand because people are talking to you like this, and you know that's shoulder.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of the idea, and then now I don't need anymore. But for example, so I went to Greece, as you mentioned, or I went to Italy. Both time I had people speaking English. Lucas, for example, speak enough English, and
Very good.
I don't know how for you, but he made it first in Greek and then made it in English for me. But
Yeah.
I mean. 90% of the explanation was very clear from his movement, his things. I think English is needed when I want some detail, like more tweaking or understanding some concept. But to show the movement and see where you need to place your body, it's more about the look. Like you need to look and then
Exactly.
experience it, right?
Yeah.
Recently, when I was in Morocco, same thing. Some things were a bit in Arabic sometimes, and then on French also. Uh, and then we kind of like grab the thing anyway. Like when he started to explain, and he was like, "Oh, I'll tell you in French after." I'm like, I think it's fine." I think it was very clear what you're trying to achieve there. obviously because maybe he did some part of the move that I knew. We were on, I don't know, half guard or things like this. Um, but it's, yeah, only when I want to discuss with people more in-depth discussion. But for movement, you learn, you practice. Even if you don't understand, I think I could go somewhere, the guy will move my leg, push my feet, bring my arm, and okay, that's the good position. Like it's clear,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah. Because you went to the Brotherhood Esawara, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool. Yeah, but they yeah, a lot of the guys that are training there speak Arabic mainly, but I
yeah.
did find in Morocco French was like massively spoken. So
Yeah.
you would have been able to like get by fine there.
This is exactly, yeah. I spoke French from some guy. Even I met another nomad there, which was from Spain, but he was speaking a bit of French. And then at first I didn't know, and then at the end I told him, "But where are you from?" And he said, "Spain." I was like, "Oh, but do you want to speak English? Like, I guess you speak English also." He's like, "Oh yeah, better," you know. And so we switched to English. He was more comfortable
Right.
with English, so I was like, "Okay, perfect," you know. Again, for me, it's all about understanding each other. So if we find a language we get along with, and we find middle ground, it's good for me, you know.
Mm,
Or maybe sometime a mix. Like sometime it happened, I speak a bit French, and then I say a word in English, and then after a word in French, and then another word in English because sometimes you don't have the vocabulary in every language. So you using this if you are with someone that speaks both, or you know, we get along like that
mm.
sometimes.
Yes. I'll just say, from an Australian's point of view, in Australia, academic people and that tend to learn a little bit of other languages, but as a general rule, everybody speaks English and they only understand English. So like pretty
Hmm.
much the whole of Australia, it's just English only. Like you never, if somebody even knows a few words of other language, you're like, what do you, how do you even know that? And then even when we go to like a lot of Australians go to Bali and Thailand because that's like our closest, cheapest
Hmm.
holidays. And
Yeah,
then Bali and Thailand, in the holiday places, everybody's speaking English.
sure.
So they're the main places that I visited. Now I've been in the European areas for quite a while now, and everybody speaks two languages. Some people speak three languages, and most people like understand like a bit of their hometown language,
Hmm.
some English, and some other kind of language. And I'm kind of like, wow, I'm a bit behind the times when it comes to actually understanding other languages. It's really I feel I feel like in the Australian culture, the understanding of like English is quite arrogant. Where you know what I mean? It's sort of just like, no, we just speak English in this country. If you want to understand us, you learn English. It's like, wow, nowhere else in the world does that. And like you say, when you're talking to somebody, it's like, I will just talk in whatever language works best for the two of us.
Yeah, I think it's the same in France in a certain way because France was a very international language before,
Mm,
especially until the Second World War. And then after English took the step up, French was the national international language in the European Union before. And you know, when Brexit happened with the UK, a lot of people wanted to go back to France as a opposition to the British,
Brexit,
like
yeah.
English talking. But again, the point is let's talk the language you want to
Mm,
facilitate, even though I think that there is a lack of like some missing translation sometimes, or we need to explain more things because some languages are more clear in some way of explaining. I think it's easier for example, have a more neutral language when we talk about things in English than in French, because in French everything is a gender. So in
mm,
English, a table is a table. For us, is a table is feminine. You know,
mm,
a mic is masculine. So in our mind, we have things like this that comes up when we talk about objects, right? And so if we push this a bit further, you have vocabularies that express something, like for example, you miss someone or things like this that are not working. In Romanian, you have a word. It's called dor. Mie dor de tine. I miss you, but it's like I miss you very, 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 very much. you know.
Mm.
In
Yeah.
English, I have to pronounce it like this. I have to repeat 4 times very to more or less give the same meaning, you know.
Yes.
In French, we have the word retrouvaille, which is when you meet someone again, but this that moment when you meet someone that you didn't see for some time, or you think you lost, and then you meet again. And the retrouvaille is not just I meet you again, like, oh, we met again in a supermarket. You know, it's retrouvaille is really this very cheerful moment where you meet after a long time, for Christmas or for a special event, you know, and that
Mm.
doesn't directly translate in English. So one thing that you do when you learn another language is you learn the culture that goes with it. And then
Yes.
sometimes it's easier to understand why people are behaving the way they behave because
Mm.
in the language, sometimes you have no word to express something, or you have a lot of word to explain the same thing. I usually give the example of the England where they have like in English they have maybe 5 or 10 words to explain the different type of rain. It's drizzling, it's raining, and you know, like there's so many words because they have different type of rain. If you're
Yeah.
in Morocco, there is no rain, so you have no different type of words for that. Probably there is other type of word for other type of
Wet,
food
dry.
or yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, like and but that allow you to move on to the vocabulary in other contexts, you know, because you need
Mm.
to adapt to that.
Definitely. And that's actually a big thing that's kind of like opened my mind with is like traveling and training at like a lot of different places.
Hmm.
I had this, I like this was kind of what I was already working on in Australia before I even left. And the idea is, well, not my idea, it's just what I've perceived and what I see as being really beneficial is culture in Jiu-Jitsu. But the thing is, just like I said, with like it's like a language. When people talk about like culture in jiu-jitsu, they tend to relate it to like the culture that's in like a business or whatever. Oh, we have this culture here and that's how it is. But the thing with jiu-jitsu is you get in, you'll have somebody in the corner over there and they're a concreter, and you've got like an airline pilot here, and you've got a doctor that comes in here. So you have
Hmm.
a lot of different people and they're all in on the same mats. And I say to people like, well, then what is the culture? How do you know what it is? And they're like, oh, well, the culture here is this, and they tend to like make up sort of something, but it's a little bit, it's different. One person says this, one person says that. In my opinion, the best way of going about and having like a good culture is actually for everybody to like have a bit of an understanding of, hey, this is what you're trying to achieve. This is like if you're like a construction worker, what is like the goals of like a 35-year-old construction worker that's been training for
Hmm.
2 years versus like an airline pilot that's been training for 8 years. Like we've got different things, and there is benefit to be learnt from everyone rather than just kind of saying, this is what happens when we're here. Like it's nice to have real like safety things and hygiene things and that kind of
Hmm.
thing. But as far as learning is concerned, it is far better if I'm not saying, you need to be like, oh, okay, I'll take a little bit from there, a little bit from here, there, and go over the top. But it's just nice to be aware of, like, let's say you and me are about to start training now. It's nice if I'm like, okay, what are your goals? So if I understand that, you're training 3 times a week and it's like a learning hobby for you, and it's also like a nice way of keeping fit without having to go to the gym all the time. And as well as that, it's a way of meeting people. We can kind of go, okay, that's what you're trying to do, that's what I'm trying to do. We can kind of like roll according to that. But
Hmm.
if you talk to me and you're like, oh, okay, you're a competitor and you're 22, and I'm like, oh, you're a competitor and you're 25, our role can be like a lot different. You know what I'm saying? It can be a lot more like, let's just make this work in a different way. So I find with like traveling around and speaking to like gym owners, that kind of thing, talking about like saying, hey, be interested in the people that you're training with, and the culture will just happen naturally as per the people that are in the room. It's not like you need to get online and read books from, I don't know, whatever people have written so far about jujitsu and kind of like make it, okay, this is what the culture needs to be. We need to be the best at
Hmm.
getting at understanding like the best moves in jujitsu, because otherwise you kind of stalemate at some point, or you kind of try to funnel it into a certain thing, and then you sort of lose the art. And really, the art of jujitsu has kind of like come, well, obviously I've looked into it a little bit. It's kind of come down from the samurais in Japan, and then, it's evolved into judo. And then when Maeda moved across to Brazil, it's kind of been this ever evolving thing. It's still evolving. And if at any point we try to stop that evolution and go, hey, this is what it is, then I feel like we actually lose the culture of jujitsu, and we kind of lose what jujitsu is. And what it really is like this ever-changing art that is um should be molded into whatever you need, whatever I need, whatever the competitor needs, or whatever the woman needs for self-defense, or whatever that is. That's kind of what you lose by saying, hey, it just needs to fit into this box.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to again come back to the why question.
Mm,
Why was it like this? The idea of the Gracie family, the little brother trying to find an alternative to his big brother. I think that kind of storytelling speaks to many people like me that have older brother, and you're like, okay, I want to be better than my brothers. But there is also this idea of leveraging and being able to be, okay, you are maybe not the fastest or maybe not the strongest or something, but you might be able to do something in the good setting. So let's see where we can go in this setting. And then also, I think, yes, definitely, I think for gym owner, knowing what is their customer base, let's say, if I would talk business mindset on that one, which
mm,
is like, okay, like me, I started as I need to do sport because I stay too much on my sofa or working, with my computer on my knees and stuff like this, or on my chair. And I want to do something back to more physical. So maybe get a bit in better shape for summer, lose a bit of weight, but also because I always been doing competition in all the sport that I've done before. It's hard for me to not imagine competition. My brother is a sport teacher. He goes to do triathlon. My sister-in-law just went to the European 400-meter sprint in
nice.
Madeira. So my family, we are around doing sport in a competition level. Doesn't mean we are, world champion or whatever, but we are being, okay, you need to challenge yourself. And
Mm,
so I just naturally moved to ask my teacher, hey, can I go for the competition? Because in my gym, there is this thing where you need approval for the first time from your gym owner. I don't know if it's to represent the brand or just for yourself as a safety measure, like not a random white belt going getting smashed without being prepared. And I don't know what's the reason behind, but I know that that's what we had to do first is to ask to make sure we can do. I got the green light, so I went for my first competition, and then when I could, I did other competition. Uh, and basically, it's what I like to. So I went first for physical and health and everything. And I said, I usually joke, I say, I don't have pain back anymore, but I have pain in my hands because we're grabbing the gi and everything. But that was my purpose. And then competition became a side purpose. I don't intend to be whatever gold medal, but I intend to do my best at competition. And if my best is to be smashed by a 23-year-old like it happened last time, then that's it. But that's it. But I know also some guys in my gym, they're like, oh no, me, I don't want to do competition. I just want to come to train every now and then and stuff like that. So obviously it makes sense. For example, in my gym, we have a competition class.
mm.
It makes sense to have that separated, for example. And also, I think I see, there's a lot of jokes on Jiu-Jitsu online about orge or couple kind of thing, where you have your best, you roll with your best guy and you can have this relationship when if you roll with someone else, you're kind of jealous. There is like a few
Ah,
jokes like this
yes.
on
Yep.
Instagram. And I mean, I think like what we can take from that is the relationship on consent and on discussion. I think sometimes you just need to be able to talk with your partner and say, okay, oh, today I want to roll lights, or today I want to work my technique, or today I want to go like full on, let's sweat, let's go for it. And like this, it's better to in order to get the expectation, So as you said, I think there is the vision from the owner to see what kind of class he needs to do. And then maybe we'll enter on the mindset on what I saw, at least for 1 year of jiu-jitsu, of the class on itself, how it's handled and how it's taught. But then there is also this interaction between people on themselves, what they want to go out of there.
Mm,
Because I think some people just want to do physical activity. They like to roll, but they will learn techniques, but it's not their primary focus to do the technique perfectly. They just, it's okay if I get back taken or whatever. Let's just go for it. And but there's some people, they are more technicians. They want to repeat the movement 100 times, like in people do on judo. They are like doing the movement over
yes,
and over. So
yes.
yeah, there's some places, some gym, maybe you can do this, and some other where it's not really so much like that. So,
And yeah, you're completely right. And I feel like it kind of makes it hard. Like I find for myself, especially at the moment, it's mostly about like meeting people and going around to the gyms. And if I want to be, if the thing that I kind of try to work hard on is if I'm helping like the actual coach maybe do some marketing or helping him with something that's a bit more business related,
mhm.
that's when I'm like really like I want to make sure it's bang on. But when it comes to like rolling, a lot of the time I just find that like I'm not wanting to compete anymore. So as long as I'm still going, as long as I'm getting like a good workout and I'm keeping fit, I really don't mind. Like it might be rolling with a white belt. I'm like, yeah, get on my back. Cool. Just about get the choke. Yeah, cool. Like, and if I get submitted, I'm like, oh, cool, let's start again. Like, it's jujitsu for me is like meeting people and a workout. That's kind of like the main thing. If I had a competition booked in a month, it'd look very, very different. But like if I was going to go to a jiu-jitsu class after this or the one I just did at level, I'm like I've got absolutely no interest in like getting a whole heap of submissions and kind of coming home with like really sore hands. Because like you say, if you're rolling the gi, and I've probably rolled in the gi about 3 or 4 times for this whole year. If I get like try really hard and get some submissions, I'm going to be like all night. I'll be like, oh, my hands are so sore. So to me, I don't really want those rolls because I
Mm.
won't really get puffed. It won't be a hard workout. And so if you know what your goals are when you go into the class, you don't get sucked into this vortex of like, that's right. I rolled with Jim last time and I got one submission on him. I need to try and get two submissions on him this time because that's not really a gauge of improvement. And if that's all
No,
your
because
goal is, but so subjective, you can never measure it.
yeah, and then the person you're with, I mean, like today I'm going to go training tonight, and this weekend I did a party. I'm because we're going away, we're not going to see our local friends here for some time, so we did a little gathering at home. If I had a whole weekend where I rested and stuff, tonight I'll be much more ready to go roll. So yes, you might
100%.
have like this partner where you're kind of like hand in hand, and sometimes you win, sometimes he wins, but in the same time, it's not proving anything on itself. Like the only thing that can prove is if it's repetitively happening. Like you
Exactly.
you get submitted over and over and over and over again, then definitely the guy is better than you. But one time or two time doesn't mean nothing because this guy might not even give everything. Maybe you didn't judge the intensity the same way. So I went full on, he didn't, or vice versa.
Mm,
Or simply, some like what I try to do now, which I wasn't doing before, is like sometimes I have like, okay, I want to work something out. And so I'm trying to work that. And so I'm not going to, I don't know, if I'm trying to work De La Riva, I might go for another technique, but like I'm trying to work that. So if I fail to work that and I pass, I might try to come back to that instead of moving to something that might have been better as a defense or another attack. but that's not my goal, right? So I
Exactly.
think
Mm.
this also counts a lot, like what you are intending to do and what your own vision, you know.
Mm.
So I think that plays like a lot on the result, as you said, you know. So
Yeah, that's very insightful, especially for somebody that's been training 12 months. Can what is your opinion on like how do you sort of judge yourself as being like improving from say 1 week to the next week? Like if you're kind of like looking at your overall progression, how do you kind of judge, okay, I'm getting better or I'm not getting better? Like, yeah, what are you sort of
yeah,
looking at there?
this is actually very complicated. I have
Mm,
actually a friend of mine is someone I met at at the gym I do now, but he moved to another gym recently because it's closer to his own place. So it was an open mat at his gym this weekend, so I went to see him, and we didn't roll for some time. So he's a brown belt now, and
mm,
and then first, we did a lot of training and we discussed a lot of techniques and everything. And I told him sometimes I have like a genius idea. Like I'm trying something and it works. And it's like, I'm like, wow, I didn't even think that technique was existing. Like I just try things out. And then, and then 2 weeks later, then don't like, it's not even coming to my mind, you know? So I don't know like if it's in a progress or not because sometimes I forget techniques because I focus on others and I don't know, I work a lot De La Riva and then we went K guard and X guard and then I worked a lot on this. So and after I forgot the De La Riva and then some guys were breaking my De La Riva, so I saw to do the lasso. But then this technique 2 months later was not even coming because I was thinking of doing, you know, like and then I work a bit of judo grip with some guys and judo throws and then I go to a nogi class and the guy taught me wrestling and arm drag and now I'm trying the arm drag and not the judo throw and I'm you know so sometimes I think like I'll need to kind of finish the cycle a bit or at least come back to some techniques that I knew in order to be able to see if I progressed, see if my techniques are better. I think my the feedback from others may be better than looking at myself. Like I roll with a guy, he's French also. Arnold is a purple belt, but bro, is I'm sure he will get bronze soon, and he's really really good. And I think he is actually the best person I ever partnered with as a upper belt that lets you work but don't let you eat him, you know? Like sometimes they
mm,
are too light or too rough. There's no balance. Like last time I went on the purple belt, I was already mount on him and he was like, "Oh, you're not a white belt." I'm like, "Bro, you didn't defend anything. Like if you let me, I obviously I'm going to take the opportunity, right?" But with Arnold is different. He lets you go, he leaves you time, and then you go, and then boom, he puts in place his defense, and you
mm,
see the advanced I think technique he has and he's physically strong also but he doesn't need that like you
mm,
know and I with him I learn a lot because we kind of do a feedback session a bit after like okay here it was good you should have pushed a bit more you should have tried that and then I think that's with him maybe I can ask him like how do you feel sometimes he will tell me oh I think you're better now you bring more your knees to your elbows or your you know stuff like this so I think
mm.
maybe more advanced people that has more the eyes for the detail can tell you if you're better
Yeah.
but yeah definitely looping over techniques because recently I went back to half guard which I did in my first 3 months and then I didn't do
Yes.
half guard. I mean, I sparred and I reached to half guard, but it's not the same than remembering the different exits and different possibility you have.
Uh-huh.
And then seeing again half guard maybe for a long step or you know for things like this was like, oh, right, okay, that's the logic into it, you know.
Mm.
And then you can see if actually you're better because you're remembering at least the path. Like, you know, I'm trying to have a vision where I'm saying, okay, from that I can go here or here. You know, I have a kind of tree in my mind.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm arriving in a position where it's blank. Literally, I just don't know what
Mm.
to do. And I
Yeah.
think the only thing I can see improvement is that tree. Can I see more branches? maybe I won't reach those branches because I'll fail before, but it's fine. At least I'm seeing something, you know?
Mm. I think what you said before too about like completing the circuit, like completing like what you kind of perceive in your mind as like the circuit in that area. Like you mentioned, say half guard. Stay focusing on that, getting that half guard position until you get, say, a wrestle up and a sweep and a submission, like until you sort of build out your own little tree. Once you're like, okay, I feel like I understand this position, now you can kind of go back, oh, I'm going to start working on De La Hiva when they stand up or whatever. And then anytime half guard randomly comes back up, you just immediately sort of try to like make your mind switch back into that little tree again. And then you kind of work through the guards, maybe you work through some passing, maybe you work through some different positions. And now the next, say, maybe 8 months later, you come back to half guard. And
Hmm.
once you come back to half guard, try to like make your mind refresh that little tree that you built and then add a little bit more onto it.
Yeah, so I think for me, first of all, when I'm in circle was also the fact that I think there is a bunch of basic techniques that then
Mm,
are the root of the trees. First of all,
yes.
for example, like we revised that recently with one of the coach in Școala Modern in Romania, which was uh, far distance, middle distance, long distance, and it was explaining some kind of logic like you will never really go long distance close distance. You will try, then go back to mid distance, and then try to go then close distance. And then if this doesn't work, you need to go mid distance. And he was explaining this kind of back and forth logic, saying that normally you will never be able to do from far to inside because I mean, if the person do the job properly, he will have to push you back and you will have to play around this and things like this. And so I was like, okay, there's some theory, let's say,
Mm,
where, okay, he was explaining different zones, when you are
yes.
front left, back, or front right, back, and things like this. And I was saying, okay, when you are here, you have that option, this option, this option. So I don't mean to learn them by heart, but it kind of makes a bit more sense after a while when you're like, oh, right, okay, I see, it makes sense. I can never go like that. It will never work, or
Hmm.
or it works, but it's because the person in front of you doesn't react like properly. And we usually try to work with the good reaction because normally your opponent are more or less your level, right? Um,
Correct.
and and then we have like the idea that I learn a different kind of move, like okay, maybe standing, I don't know, like Y guard and then close guard, and then we had like De La Riva, then we had like X guard, single leg X, all those kind of different techniques, which we see individually, or Toreando, for example, and then basically right now I'm like, okay, I've seen this, and then the class also, the teacher, they kind of go through a certain list of class and then sometimes come back depending on how they see people are doing well or not. And and then now I'm trying to see, okay, I have a tree from that, but I don't have the tree from that technique to that technique. For example,
Mm,
it took me a while to understand that K guard and X guard were kind of the same thing, but not completely the same thing. But
yeah.
like you can go
Yeah.
through one to the other, and you can like slide from one paradigm to another.
Yes.
And this I did at first I didn't come to my mind, but more I know techniques, more I come back to it, more I'm like, oh wait, for example, something very simple like arm drag. Okay, I went to a nogi class, which we don't do very much in the gym that I do. We are mainly a gi-based gym.
Right.
Uh, and so I go to a nogi class and we are learning arm drag. Okay. And then after we have like leg drag. And then I'm seeing the guy doing the same movement and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It's exactly the same thing. Like, you just moving aside and pull with this hand, grab with this hand and stuff like this. And I'm like, oh, all right. Okay. That should have been obvious, but it took me 2, 3 months to realize that that was actually the same knowledge in a way, the same
Yes.
movement and the same logic, but it was two different class, two different gyms, two different teachers. And the
Yes.
time my brain was making the link, it took a while. Yeah.
Yes. So two things that I think, and I say this to like people all of the time, and it doesn't really matter too much what level you're at, is number one, especially at lower levels, try to think about yourself as being your best coach.
Mm-hmm.
That'll make more sense to you because you've like traveled around and you've done jujitsu at different places, and you can go, oh, when this coach said it that way, and then I went to this gym and this coach said it that way, they said it completely differently, but they was essentially saying the same thing. You can kind of go, by being aware of that, you're able to coach yourself and go, this is what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then number two is try to understand what they are trying to get you to do by teaching you the move. So this is why I'm a big fan of what's called the constraints-led approach. That was
Mm-hmm.
Greg Souders and Rob Gray wrote that book, How We Learn to Move, that kind of thing. They play little games where you will try to achieve a goal. So not positional sparring. You'll do like, say, maybe I've just got to try and block your hands and you've just got to try to do the arm drag. And when you do the arm drag, your only goal with doing the arm drag is to get your chest onto the back of my tricep. Just try to get behind my arm somehow. So that then you can go, okay. So then the coach is directly telling you, hey, the goal in this situation is to hand fight with the intention of getting your chest to the back of their tricep. But even if the coach doesn't actually tell you that, and they're explaining a move, try to go look at it yourself and go, okay, he's saying that I need to put my hands there and my legs there and do this sequence of moves. But the outcome of those moves is to maybe off balance my training partner, maybe just get their hips to sit to the ground if it's some sort of guard, or if it's like an X guard, I'm just trying to make them come closer to their far leg, come closer to me or further away, or whatever it is. If you can try to understand, hey, that's what I'm trying to achieve, then rather than having to learn all of these sequences of moves and all of these different trees, you can kind of go, when you understand, okay, this is the outcome that I want. When all of their like there's different trees around it, you can just kind of
Mm-hmm.
go, oh, this is one of the ones that I put into that. This is one of the ones that I put into that. So that then as you progress and you start to get better and better at rolling, and you've been to like thousands of classes and you've got all of these different moves, Jiu-Jitsu is just far too big and you can't keep all of those moves in your head at any given time.
Sure.
All you need to do is just go, this is what I try to achieve in this position.
Mm-hmm.
And then your body just somehow remembers the moves and it just kind of does them by automatic. You just kind of think, oh, I need to fight with his hands. Oh, I need to get inside position. Oh, I need to get these hands onto the floor. That's all you kind of need to think in any given situation, and your body just naturally makes the right grips and like does the rest for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. This is very interesting. These different uh, educational techniques. I think this is
Mm,
the same pattern with like any kind of education. You have like, the very strict math teacher, and then you have the one doing, demonstration and having fun with numbers and everything. I think it's the same on the jiu-jitsu. You have people that want to teach you all the techniques, and then you have people that are like, okay, just do something and then you'll see what works and what not, kind of thing, like kind of if I push the extreme.
mm,
Um, I don't know, to be honest, what's the best. I personally like to not just learn a technique, but to understand the purpose. So, but sometimes, as I said, it's like chess. If I'm going to say, okay, but what happen if I fall right? What happen if I fall left? What happen if I go back? What happen if I go front? The teacher will be like, wait, I cannot explain all of this now. It's too long, too much, like we're opening doors that open doors, right?
mhm,
So, but in the same time, anyway, I think we are all trying things because when you don't have the technique, you will do something, right? I just think that some people are more naturally wired to move better than others. And like, depending on how you grew up when you were a kid. For example, my nephew is like 15. He came to Romania for a couple of weeks and I took him to training. And because he's already very athletic, my brothers do, when they grew up, they did a lot of mobility training. So right, left, jump, leg up, leg down, on the hands, on the foot, whatever, like a lot of different kind of physical training that has no link to whatever sport, but just movement, you know. And naturally, I explained to him a bit, okay, you Toreando, you need to put your hand there and then turn around, put some pressure. We did it at Christmas even before he came here. I already knew when he would come here. He is 15, he's two heads smaller than most of the other kids here because it's very small. He's a excess size kid, you know.
Hmm.
And but yeah, and people were like, "Well, fuck, he's doing stuff," because naturally he has those technicity, you know. When I started and I had to do on Toreando, and I didn't put my hand and my head down for years until maybe a yoga class before, which I did like what they call in English, I think the dog head down or something like this.
Downward facing
The
dog.
downward facing
Yeah.
dog, yeah. Which was a pain. Like I was like, wow. I didn't been make so much pressure on my shoulders for years. Like then a lot of movement that sometimes I'm doing now are wrong because it doesn't feel natural to fall. It's easier for me to fall on my butt than actually falling on my arm or putting my feet behind, you know? So maybe I think like this more natural, I forgot the name, some people online talks about it, as you said. What's the name of this teaching technique where you don't really learn technique but you ecological,
Constraints-led
right?
approach, ecological approach,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
the
yeah.
constraints-led approach.
Yeah,
Same thing.
okay.
Mm.
So I think that might be very interesting for kids, which has like they are not being somehow framed in a certain way. To give you an idea, I had a hard time when I did boxing to have my wrists very fixed. Because
Hmm.
in table tennis, this is exact opposite.
You
You
need
need
to,
to be
yeah.
flexible in order to do movement. So
Mm.
now I have to rewire my brain not to be breaking my wrist, but to actually be straight in order to have a better
Mm.
alignment on my movement. I cross my finger in table tennis a lot. My finger, sorry, my feet behind each other. I do like basketball. You know, you put your feet behind, you
Yeah.
bend like this, you can kick the ball. Then no equilibrium in martial arts. So most of the time you are actually chasing your feet away and you don't
Hmm.
cross them,
Hmm.
right? And so all of those behavior, I had to rewire them, you know. It didn't come naturally to me to actually move my feet left, my left foot left first. It's more easier to actually move my right feet on my left, you know, somehow. You
100%.
see?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like rethinking on like, wait, okay, that don't work. Like you need to prove your feet. Like someone had to tell me like, hey, that don't do this because it's risky. A bit
Yes.
like, you know, when people, when they do back take, they cross their legs and you tell them, no, put your hooks separately, right?
Yeah.
Naturally, people will cross their legs because that seems like a close guard position when you're trying to keep your opponent, you know?
More secure.
Yeah. And
Mm.
I like, yes, maybe you might tell me, oh, if I hurt your feet two or three times, you will stop doing it. But I'm not sure. Because when I cross my legs, I don't even think about it. It's not a conscious decision, it's just a reflex. So in
Mm.
order to be able to kill my reflex, I need to conscientize the fact that I shouldn't do this, work on the fact that I shouldn't do this, and then it will become back to be a reflex, right?
True. Yes. But I think it's also there's like two things that you go in. You need to understand like why you're doing it
Mm-hmm.
first. So when it comes to like say taking the back, or like you're just talking about crossing your feet, let's say if we just put that into context, if you're talking to people and saying, hey, we're gonna have a game where the main goal is to take the back, and once you get that seatbelt grip and then you get your feet, the two hooks in, that's like maybe you have to hold that position or something like that. People are immediately going to start crossing their feet if they've never done jiu-jitsu before. They're going to go, oh, well, I need to squeeze my knees together and cross my feet because that makes sense. And then if there's people there with more experience, they'll probably hook those feet and maybe submit them. If you're like in that position, if you were say teaching a class and you were doing that, you pretty much say to people, a really good thing to do is not cross your feet, because otherwise, because you can give it some context straight
Mm-hmm.
away. And you can even say to
Sure.
people, hey, while you're there, you may as well cross your feet and see what happens. You know what I'm saying? You can just go, hey, this is why, and this is the actual reason why. And then the same is with I was actually doing a talking to some people about controlling the back just
Mm-hmm.
the other day. I was teaching a bit of a class where we were talking about the grip and talking about maintaining the back. And I played a few games around back control, and people were asking, like, and as soon as I got people to go, I was like, we're going to have no hooks in, we're going to have the seatbelt grip. And straight away, as soon as we played a couple of games, I said, any questions? And one of the first questions was, oh, you always tell us that one of the main grips is like cable grip, but I notice you hold your hands a different way. And I'm like, yeah, well, if you're on back control, I find it's usually easier if I put my bottom hand over the wrist of my top hand, because then when I'm going for the choke, it's easier for me to turn it up. But I can then answer the question in a completely relevant way that they understand. Whereas if they didn't have any idea of using the gable grip, controlling the back, or anything like that, then when they ask that question, they'd be like, "What's a gable grip and what's the?" So they'd actually
Mm-hmm.
have no context. So I feel like tying the two in and being like aware of like what people are trying to achieve. Actually, you can either teach a technique to answer the question, or you can play a game to answer the question, rather than just go, "Oh, it has to be this way, or it has to be that way," or
Sure. No, I completely agree with you. This is why
yeah.
maybe also I may, as you know, I'm new, and so maybe
Mm.
I don't have the exact definition of ecological approach. I've seen a few videos about it. What my understanding was is that basically you are going to move around and maybe you have some objectives, and then you learn somehow by yourself the,
Yes,
you
yes,
know,
yes. Yeah,
which
and so
like, for example, I don't know who in which context a K-guard was invented, but I'm telling you, you can give me 100 years of doing jiu-jitsu. I don't think so K-guard will be a move that will come naturally to me, you know? So, like, putting my knee under the leg of, like, no, like, I think it wouldn't have. I mean, maybe in 100 years, maybe, but like in a lifetime of training 3 times a week, and I don't think so that would have come naturally into me. A lot of things that I'm trying, even is things maybe I've seen on videos, and I'm like, okay, maybe that looks like that, and let's try out.
mm,
So I think definitely, if we talk about the fact that we need an objective, which is a technique, a position, some kind of result, and then maybe if the discussion is about how to reach this position where people need to figure it out, or we tell them the path, then I think there is way to debate, where like maybe some people feel more comfortable with, okay, I'll give you the path and then you need to practice the path over and over again. Or we don't give you the path, play around and see if you discover it,
because some
and
some people actually will come up with different ideas, and it's so funny that you mentioned K-guard, because I've got a really funny story. If I go back about 5 years, closed guard, like I barely play closed guard anymore, um, because I just find it's too stopped and I don't get enough of a workout.
Mhm.
But at the time, I used to really like K guard. I mean, not K guard. I used to like close guard. So I was playing close guard, and I'd usually like, if people like were being very heavy and aggressive to me, I'd I'd like try to frame them out, and then I'd try to, like, arm drag or come around to
Yeah.
their back. But a lot of the time, what would happen is they'd keep their elbows locked on either side of me, so I couldn't start to do any kind of an arm drag. And when I weigh 70 kilos, so bigger guys were really shutting me down. So what I started to do was like frame across on their shoulder and take my other hand and reach on the inside of their thigh and move out around the side. And I found that I could bring my knee in and I could actually hold that position. And once they felt a bit off, once I could get them a bit off balance, I could either backwards roll out of the position,
Hmm.
or sometimes move them completely away and like get like a straight knee bar. So I'd been doing this for quite a while, probably about 2 years. And then I went to, I was very interested. I didn't know what K guard was. So I went to a Lachlan Giles seminar and it was all about K-guard. So I was like, all right, cool, cool. And so I'm like super locked in. And then I'm like, he's like, oh, we're going to start off at our knees and we're going to reach underneath the knee. And I'm like, oh, he's doing like that thing that I get my students to do as like as a bit of a warm-up thing. And then after the end of the first class, I'm like, can you just so that when we go on with the rest of, because it was like a multi-day thing, like when we go on with the rest of it, can you just explain to me what like K-guard is so I don't look like an idiot? This is after the class and I'm talking to Lockie. And he's like, yeah, that was K-guard. That's what we're doing. And I was like, ah, I've actually been using K-guard for years and I didn't even know that it was a
The
thing.
name, yeah.
So some people are naturally going to come up
Yeah,
with different things. So
yeah, this
mm,
is exactly what I'm saying. I mean, and I think there is context to it. It was
mm,
might have found a solution, but for example, like a colleague of mine is kind of tall and big, and when most of the opponent that he's working with are smaller than him, and I think K-guard works very well when you're a bit more flexible and you can reach there and
mm,
and I think there is things where typically I see some people that are have everyone has their own little techniques and probably it evolve over time. But I already feel that there is some stuff that I prefer than others and things that I feel more comfortable to do. So
mm,
anyway, obviously, like people will discover, I don't know if there is a better result or not. Maybe I'll see over time. Maybe in 5 years we'll discuss and I'll tell you, wow, I should have done that a long time ago. Because I've seen, I mean, obviously I'm curious. I watch a lot of different things. I talk to people. I'm asking questions, so I get answers. And I've seen different techniques. I know anyway that people are trying out, but maybe I'm trying out more than others, and people maybe try more than me. So things like this, because I some people I come from really this kind of repetitive kind of thing where like you're like in karate, you're going to do 1,000 repetition and things like this, and so I think it works great with some people like this, and again, I really believe that any if there is two ways of working or three ways of working or 10 ways of teaching, there is definitely none of them is perfect in any way. There is obviously
no,
some technique that works better for some mind and how you've been set. If I joke of what we joked recently with a friend of mine, she's from Lebanon, but she working in Germany, and she was explaining the mindset from people that are from the Lebanon and Lebanese people and German people, and the way things are in their mind, the way they organize their life, their work, their. So obviously, then this applies to the same thing. People that are maybe a bit more
mm,
creative, then the ecological approach might be a bit more. And then
mm,
the other more classic, I would say, old school way of teaching the different techniques. Um, Obviously, I would imagine that if we go historically speaking, ecological approach is the basis of anything because you need someone to have created the techniques, then give it a name.
mm.
So obviously,
Exactly.
it
Yeah,
someone has to create it. But I still think that there is people that are more geniuses and they create techniques than others can copy. And I
definitely.
tend to think that most of the time I'm more a copy person than a creator. So
Yeah,
like even in IT, every day my work is about using the great work of some other people. Like,
exactly.
I never created a piece of code that is not based on someone else's work. It doesn't really exist in my domain. So, um, like the point for me is like, okay, how can I leverage those techniques for what I'm good at? I don't know. For example, I'm stronger at my arms than my feet, or I'm stronger at my feet than my arm, or I'm flexible at the knee, not flexible at the knee. Um, Stuff like this, like for example, or yeah, I think like for example, triangle right now tend to come more often than arm bars for me. Like
Right.
it's the kind of thing that I like more often than not. I'm feeling that a triangle is there. Like I'm close, or I entered it. Maybe the person went out, but I see that there is an option of triangle. I don't always see the armbar except maybe if I'm mount.
Mm,
So
mm,
close guard for me, if I can do triangle, I'll enter in the triangle more easily than. Uh, Again, more easily or less bad than the armbar, I would say.
There's
It's always the way
there's
of
more
saying.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I actually won one of my match in competition with a
with
triangle.
a
Even
triangle.
though I didn't
Nice.
really do it the best, I had to put my hand in there in order to do a half triangle, half X stroke, kind of, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that came more naturally to me. While every time I tried to do some kind of arm bar, I got turned around and took this back or some side
Yeah.
control and so
Yeah.
stuff like this. Yeah, yeah.
And because I'm like a bit shorter, it's the complete opposite to me. Like I can do triangles, but I practically never do them, and I hurt my knees when I do them. So, but then something like X guard or K guard, those kind of things don't really even need to be taught to me. Like they're just sort of my legs will just kind of go into those positions. But then when I try to do a triangle, I'm like, "Ugh." I know
Yeah,
all of the steps and all of the different ways to do it. And but to your point about like copying moves and like if there's other moves. These days, man, I don't really think there is any real new moves. They're just kind of like different spins on moves that are existing. But the reason you get like people sort of talking about, oh, gi is better or no gi is better or this style of learning is better is because of like the social media thing. And really,
sure.
it's better for engagement and it's better for marketing if you go, my way is the best and I do it completely. I just only do this style of training. And then you jump online and you're like, no, you don't. And then somebody else comes along and then it creates that engagement. So that's why I tell people like be your own like coach and be working on your own things so
Sure.
that when different people like say, for instance, somebody's telling you, hey, this is the best technique to learn, or this CLA style of learning is the best thing. Well, it's more about what is actually going to be working better for you at any given time more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think there is things where you have affinities with. Like, for example, I really
Mm,
like judo and I like the gi, I like the traditional side of things. So I'm happy my gym is gi most of the time. But I
mm.
enjoy to go for no gi. But for example, at no gi, because I'm not very confident with my knees, I don't really like to go down and grab legs. So it's easier for me to actually go gi and go some throws or some sweep or things like this. But recently, I did learn arm drag in nogi, and then I use arm drag against one of my colleague with a gi, and it works quite well because I could grab the back also with the belt and everything, and so obviously, I mean, for me it seems obvious, but both are really needed. In the street, you're not everyone naked in short and arch guard. Even with a t-shirt, you can do a choke. So in real life, I think clothing is important, and you're missing some
Mm,
weapons if you don't do gi. But in the same time, the agility and the rapidity of the no-gi is really good for cardio. I'm really happy I started with gi because you asked me the question of how I know I improve myself. Now I can do 5, 6 rounds of 5 minutes without dying too much. Before it was one or two. So I
yeah.
think that's one of the things that I see I'm improving. But when I go for gi round, no gi round, I'm like, whew, wow.
They're
If I'm not
hard. They're
submitted
hard.
fast enough, I'm dying before.
Yeah.
But like I really enjoyed too, and I had a teacher in Italy where basically he was telling me, okay, you put your hand like this in the back to do the judo throw, but he was doing it like it was no gi. It was like I was like, oh, in judo normally you grab the belt or you grab the thing. It's like, yeah, no, because like if you are would be in no gi, you would not grab anything. So just put your hand behind the back, and
Oh,
then
was he talking about grabbing the lat?
yeah,
Like reaching,
exactly,
yeah,
yeah,
like an
yeah.
Uchimata.
So
Yep.
yeah, for example, and so even though we were working on like pistol grip on the gi,
Hmm.
instead of the pistol grip, if I were no gi, I grab your wrist probably, I guess, on C grip or something like this, and then I'll put my hand underneath your armpit, and then I would send you, and
Mm.
I thought the logic was great. Like sometimes there is things that are in gi and they're only in gi, like X choke or a lot of for like a bow and arrow. I don't even know if it exists in nogi because normally you grab the trouser and you grab the but yeah.
If you've got a really strong grip and you're much stronger than the person that you're rolling against,
Yeah,
then you can do
probably,
a bow
but
and arrow no gi, but that doesn't count.
yeah, exactly. So I guess it's more like a gi-based thing, and I think it's sad not to know that technique because I was actually saying to a friend, and he was telling me like you should actually do a rear naked choke even with gi. And I told him, but for some reason everyone is doing like grabbing collars and everything. So most of people they would actually grab the collar and do whatever it needed with the gi. They will never go for a bare rear naked choke.
No, because
So
if you've got the gi on, I completely disagree. It's so hard. It's hard in no gi to get your hand underneath
yeah,
somebody's chin if they're fighting. So if they've got the gi on and you can just reach your hand down here and then make a grip on the
yeah,
lapel
exactly.
and then just pull the lapel underneath their chin. Why wouldn't you just do that? Go for a bow and arrow. Bow and arrow is a far better choke, or even
When
just
you're in gi,
like
yeah, exactly.
and gi, 100%.
So for me, I think, both worlds are great. I'm really like judo. So for example, I saw like the kids that are in my gym, they are like 15, they do this for 10 years already. They started, kids and they
Mm,
are really good. I mean, I'm 20 years older than them and they screw me over. Your ego is a bit touch on that, but you need to go over that.
mm.
But I'm like, okay, what can I do against them? And they like to, roll on their knees and go on your legs and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, maybe I can try some judo stuff. So I actually a couple of months ago when I went to France, I asked my old gym at when I was a kid, and the trainer changed, but I had the chance to talk to him, and I had a 1 hour and a half of judo, and we went back to some moves and everything. And last time I surprised one of those kids like this, he was not prepared for me to try that. And even me, because I thought he would resist and it just poof went out. He's also a
Yeah.
bit lighter than me, so it's helping. But I was like, okay, maybe. But last competition, the guy that I was on the open match with a guy that was maybe 95, so 95 plus, so I'm 85 kilograms. And and it was like he did a match before me with another guy which was 100 something, and they were like no one went on the floor. It was judo pure. I had the impression to see a judo match. So I was like,
Mm.
okay, with this guy I'm not going to do judo. So the first thing I did, pull guard. Like I knew I would go to a domain that won't work.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think this is this. Like for me, is like, okay, what do I like? And then let's see what my opponent, if I can see what kind of style he has and see if I'm confident or not. If
100%.
I see a guy that is very good at judo and is heavier than me, I'm not going to try something. It's no way I'm going to make him move. Let's go for things that are a bit more like classic or things that I worked more and I know I can do something.
Yeah,
So that's
don't go into their world. Bring them into yours.
yeah. But I'm never
Exactly.
going to like I think like right now I still need to work again to strengthen my body in order to do single legs or double legs. I might, grab a leg if really like, maybe the guy is a bit disequilibrated and the feet is there. I can maybe do something or I don't know, for example, I go X guard and then I push him over and then I do a sweep and then I keep the leg, with me. But most of the time, it's important for me to know how it works, a single leg or double leg, not for me to do it, but more for me to block it, which
Mm.
I completely failed in my last competition.
Ah.
My opponent left me like I was a bag of feather and just, I mean, I can
It
show you the
happens.
video, but it's like he just took me up and then I saw the ref because we were kind of close from the border of the mat and she kind of said something though. In my mind, I was like, maybe she would stop the match. And then I started to see the ceiling moving and I was like, oh, no, okay, move.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It
w-
happens.
as I said to my friend, I have work to do, but it's fine,
100%.
it's fine.
So look, one of the last questions I wanted to ask you is so on the belts, like the like in when I started jiu-jitsu, it was very much like everything was gi. We always had our belts on, and the blue belts were always better than the white belts, and the white and the purple belts were always better than the blue belts, and it was very kind of linear. It was like
Hmm.
wherever you went, you could kind of see, hey, that's where everybody is. But then now, especially over the last 6 or 7 years, there's been like this massive takeoff of like no gi, and then there's like the competitive level, and then like you're getting kind of black belts like myself that are kind of starting to dabble into like the no gi world, and then they're getting a bit older and they're a bit smaller, and then they're having like a role with a maybe an 85, 95 kilo blue belt that's like
Hmm.
competitive level, and it's like then people are kind of like, well, what's the point of belts? Belts don't even mean anything. Belts don't matter anymore. Like I definitely have an opinion on where they fit in, but I'm just curious as to what your opinion on belts in jiu-jitsu would be. Like, and obviously you've seen belts in judo, and like
Yeah.
you're aware of how they work in other martial arts. What do you actually think about that?
Yeah, so I think it's a very complex question, and I think this is why like there's a lot of so much debate about it. This is one of the first discussion I had with my friend because so the thing is like this, I know belts it's in judo has been or I've been added also in order to see the evolution of kids and to motivate. And it's been this kind of idea that if you get the belt, you know it motivates, so you continue. And obviously there is a financial impact on it, where if people continue, they still pay their subscription and all of this. So that's one side. The other side, I think, is the representation of what belt means, and not in terms of on time, but also knowledge. I think some people are really good and learn very fast, and they could go faster. And some people take time, and obviously it's complicated because I think a lot of people even like for example the stripes on the belt before changing belts is the same discussion. Is like, should you get it because of X number of days? Should you do it because of your result at competition? Should you do it because the teacher saw you enough, then he will decide that you're at that level? I don't have really a fixed point, but what I would say is like this. I think it's great to motivate people because some people might be very bad at the beginning, and then on over the long run they actually become good, even better. I think we reach some, like, I will call it in, I don't know if you can use it in English, but plateau, like some kind of
Hmm. Plateau.
level where you don't go further and you need to switch something in order to go further.
Hmm.
And so this plateau might come at different moments. Some people can go very good blue belt and then stay blue belt, and then some people might be very bad white belt, then find out something and then go up.
Hmm.
So, and also the age. So I think we need to consider age. We need to consider a life experience. I'm a white belt. I did table tennis before. I have a colleague of mine, he's a white belt. He's a physical trainer. He was a pro handball player. He's tall, he's strong, he knows how to put his body better than me. He started before me, but even if he would start a year before me, I'm sure he would be blue belt before me because physically and technically he's way more aware of his body.
Yeah.
So my opinion is that I'd like to have some kind of official, let's say more or less rules to say, okay, a blue belt should know that. I like the definition from Joe Rogan, I think, which says that blue belt, or maybe from Gracie family, I forgot where it's come from, but I heard it online where it says like a blue belt should be able to beat anyone on train, something like this, where like any man on train, even heavier, a blue belt should actually manage it. And I like this definition because it's not about techniques. It's not you know how to do this, you know how to do this, but it's harder to test, right? You cannot just take a random guy in the street and say, "Hey, we want to test our blue belt." So I think it's really depend. I really don't like the idea that if I just pay for 10 years and come 3 times a week, I'll be a black belt. I think most probably I'll be a better belt because you cannot just do this for 10 years and never grow in competencies ever. But for me, it's fine if I'm staying longer, even though I know mentally it's harder because you see your guys next to you that grows and gets maybe pass you over, and it's like in a race where they go take you over, but we are not going to the same destination and we are not coming from the same point. So
Mm,
like when I see a kid that is 16 years old, is orange belt and he's beating me, I have no problem. Like, he's doing it for longer and he's not even formed yet. In 10 years, he'll be stronger. But in 10 years, he might have started to do party, be student, it might be another life also. So for me, I think, I probably didn't really answer your question because it's so many criteria that come to my mind. But I would
yeah.
say definitely there is a difference between like the age and the experience. But
Mm,
I'd like to have some kind of achievements, uh, because it will allow me also to do something that I think is an issue in BJJ. It's the fact that you have to stay in the same gym in order to be promoted. And that if tomorrow I travel and every day I go to a different place for a year, I will never change belt. While maybe
mm,
I'll be able to learn, because if I stay a month somewhere, I have time to do different kind of class. And then I could go at the end of the year, let's say in June, and then show to any kind of trainer in the world that I know X, Y, Z, which is not
yes,
possible if I move around because people will judge me by what they see and they will want me to stay 3, 4 months at least to see if they can promote me or not because it's their name after all, right?
that's right. Mm,
So, I know some gyms still do some tests, I think. I've seen some videos online where people do tests. Again, I don't know how those tests are made. If it's a bit like I was doing in other martial art, when you just say, I do this movement and this movement. Okay, but doing an armbar
yeah,
on a man
kata.
that is leaving himself do an armbar and an armbar on someone that is defending himself is not at all the same thing. So for example, I kind of like the idea that if you win a competition, at least a world one or European one, you can get promoted. Like you just prove your point. And even if we imagine that not everyone competes and that maybe you are in a category where you have less people and whatever, if you reach a level that is not a local competition, you already eliminate enough people to prove the point, I would say.
Yes.
But
I think if you compete in Worlds and you win the gold medal, or if you even get on the podium at Worlds, you're ready for the next belt. Well, if you got held back, if you're at say blue belt and then you got held back for a whole another year and
yeah,
training at blue belt, that's a bit
yeah,
crazy. Yeah. I
yeah,
think the important thing though to remember is belts are, I don't know if the words like translate across for you, but like subjective and objective.
sure.
So like subjective is like what's
Yeah,
personal to
your
you, and
point of view.
objective is like a measurable thing
Yeah,
that anybody can see. Belts are completely subjective. So it should be, and coaches should be more and more aware of like, hey, I'm grading somebody like this stripe for this reason. So it's a good idea for whenever you get like a stripe or you get like a belt, it's a good idea to go, this is what this one means to me. I've worked this hard to achieve this stripe,
yeah.
and but it only really needs to mean something to you. It doesn't really need to mean anything to anybody else. And it is a little bit objective if we're talking about maybe I'm 22 and I'm like competing at Worlds, the end of next year, and I'm like aiming to win. Well, it definitely makes sense for me to be at like a really high level and at a stage that I can win, and
hmm
then maybe get my belt on the stage, and then maybe hopefully, next year. But for your average person that's just rolling, maybe they want to compete at like a local thing. Maybe they want to dabble in this sort of competition or that competition. Then it's mostly up to what the coach and what the people that are around them can see them actually progressing. And
hmm
that's why one of the main things when I'm helping people, whether it's a student that's just learning or whether it's somebody that's running a gym, I always say to people, learn how to talk to your teammates or your students or your coach and actually be interested in them as people and try to find out what they're actually doing jiu-jitsu for, whether it's, whatever their goals are, whether it's competition or whether it's something fun or it's just a bit of self-defense, it's much better if you actually understand, and then you can kind of go, well, it's subjective. If you're coming in for um, self-defense, if you're like, say, a woman who wants to feel, maybe they work late in the city and they want to feel more confident in
Mm-hmm.
self-defense, then you really want to judge them if they're getting their blue belt. They really should be, like Joe Rogan says, able to defend themselves. So when you're watching them, if you see them rolling, they should be always being able to neutralize the position and get to a stage where they could run away from that thing
Mm-hmm.
more than be able to get submissions on
Sure.
guys. They, you know what I mean? If you saw them every time they were roll, if they'd said to you, "Hey, I want to become better at jiu-jitsu for self-defense," but then every time you saw them rolling with somebody that was a bit bigger than them or a bit of a challenge, you saw them immediately going into some kind of a deep half guard position or something like that. You'd be like, "Well, no way! Like your deep half guard is awesome, but you're not ready for blue belt because that doesn't really line up with your
Mm.
goals." You
I
see,
see,
you
I
see what
see.
I'm
Yeah, yeah,
saying?
yeah.
But if they'd said, "Hey, I'm like wanting to win the competition," well, and they're a white belt that's automatically sweeping people from deep half guard, you'd be like, "Sweet, you're definitely at blue belt level because you're able to sweep nearly anybody in the in the gym, even though you're a white belt." If you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. After this is why, like, for example, I've seen, my gym is linked to AOJ, the art of
The
Jiu-Jitsu.
Mendes, yeah.
Yes, and they came to do a seminar last year, and I was really at the
Brother.
beginning for me, but there were already
Mm.
those discussion where like they had some of their I don't know how you call it, the people they train basically like their close students, that are really performing and
Yeah,
everything. And
yeah.
there were already this discussion like, oh, this guy is a purple belt, but actually he value already kind of a black belt, a normal black belt or something like this. And that for me, it's a bit struggling, because but that really mean that when you go to a competition, then the level you have is not representing, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, if I win as a white belt in my local tournament, I'd like to be able to win at a bigger tournament before I get blue belt. Because if I get blue belt after 2 years, then I'll go to a list of people that should be more advanced. And if already I'm bad at white belt, why would I be able to do something better at blue belt?
Exactly.
Obviously, there is also an age difference because right now in Master 1, when I was Master 1, there were no one. So I went to the adults category. So maybe I would perform
Mm.
better if it was men with my age or men olders or. Obviously that plays. But I still have this thing where as soon as the belt is, it's put you into a category where you will be with other people, then it should mean that somehow you need to have your chance. So if you get your blue belt
Mm.
too early, then you'll get fucked. If you get it too late, then good for you. That means you'll be probably more advanced and you can do something. But
Yeah.
and also I'm thinking there is also this discussion saying, which I think maybe go over the head of people on time, but as a early practitioner, I would say that that's kind of conversation comes is like if you're white belt and then you manage to submit a blue belt. You're like, okay, this blue belt is not so great because normally you should be blue belt and shouldn't be submitted by white belt. Obviously, there is circumstances, as we said. You are a white belt that is 17 years old and is really good. He did it for a long time, and then you have the one that is it's 30 or 40 years old and is a blue belt. It's nothing to compare, but somehow I would imagine that. Um, I mean, it shouldn't happen on a daily basis. Like if you're a blue belt, white belt shouldn't be able to do something on a daily basis. It could be exceptional,
Mm.
but it shouldn't be, on a daily basis. Because also, as we discuss, like, should we promote because of time on everything? I think for white belt, it might help in order for people to get the feeling of it, like to get motivated. And then maybe the love of sport will lead you to keep you longer because I think the
Mm.
statistics are like 90% of white belts never go to blue belt because they stopped
Yeah.
before. I guess one of those is maybe they don't like the sport, okay, or they don't feel that they progress for some reason. And I think the stripes can help that. Sometimes, for example, there is a lady that has more stripe than me, but if we would spar, I would always win, But it makes sense also because I think maybe from how she arrived in the sport, the teacher might have seen that she progressed a lot, so he rewarded her for her to continue and come more often. And I think it's great. I think maybe when we pass to other belts, then maybe we should reduce that to more a okay, now you see that you like the sport, the motivation is can still be here, but the motivation should be maybe something else than just level of stripe or belt. It should be more,
Definitely.
maybe more hands-on because I think you might have a pool of white belt you try to cuddle to for them to stay, but then the
Hmm.
blue belt that remain you have a bit less, and then you might be focusing on them and a bit like, okay, let's see how we can see your progress. Maybe let's make some plan. Um, I don't know. I think what's missing for me sometimes is maybe some kind of individually coaching kind of thing, where
Yeah.
maybe we could kind of checklist, okay, look, this is great, this is not great, maybe let's focus on this. Recently, I even asked
Mm.
my coach, I told him like, look, should I go back to the basic class or to the fundamentals? Because I went to the fundamentals, but I saw two guys that are still in the basics. They got their second stripe like me. And when we spar, I'm like, they know less technique than me, but the technique they know it better. So I was wondering
Mm.
if I should go back a bit to, rework a bit better my basics, or if I should continue on the fundamentals. And he told me, no, stay in the fundamentals. It's fine. We will review things on time, because we will do some other techniques, but they are linked from the basics that you saw. And recently we did again some toreando and stuff like this and passing legs but there is this thing where sometimes some people might not need that, but personally, I like a bit more, hands-on coaching sometimes. So it's why I'm always
Yes.
going to see my trainer, like, okay, what should I do there? What can I do? Like, where do you see when we spar? I told him, like, what do I do wrong? Like, tell me what I should delete from my mind. Like, this is a completely bad move because hurt my knee, or it's completely bad because I have no defense whatsoever in this position, or like. So
Mm. Yeah.
I think that can help, after maybe when you get other belt, I guess maybe. Even though I'm white belt and
Yeah.
I want that, but.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to like if you're being like your own coach and you're aware of like, oh, I'm struggling with this. How come I'm struggling? Like actually put your hand up and ask the coach. Say, hey, this isn't working for me. I know you've explained it to me like 5 times, but I
Yeah.
can't make it work. Can you watch me do it and tell me why I can't work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's yeah, actually it's better for coaches if you say, this is where I'm struggling, help me like sort this out rather than just try to figure it out yourself from when they're explaining. If you just go, I did try it, it doesn't work. Now I need some like, yeah, one-on-one.
hmm
But
But I,
yeah.
st- I still think there is some coaches that they're really good as competitors, but they are maybe not that great as giving advice on another body, like you're in a different shape.
Mhm.
And then you're taller, you're thinner, you're larger, like, and they tell you, oh, it's like this, but it doesn't work very well with your body mechanic. And some other people are better than others to do that. I think for
Yes.
example, we were discussing with a friend of mine, with two different coaches from different clubs, and he was saying both are great coaches, but one is way more hands-on on detail. Like,
Mhm.
and it was like, for example, he was happy that he did both clubs because it was one gym was he could review a lot of detailed things that he'd been seen before, but he was missing like the extra precision that he wanted. And then with the other, he got a bit more other hands-on techniques or other mindsets, and it was like, okay, cool, I can grab from here a bit and from there also some things, and mix them up for
Definitely.
myself.
Definitely. And I don't know if you had a coach with your table tennis or like but coaches just in general. You
hmm
see in a lot of other sports like the footy coach and the wrestling coach or whatever, he's like usually like an older guy with a pot belly and he kind of limps around the field and he tells all the athletes like how to do their different respective things and everyone listens to him because he's got like the wisdom. For some reason in jiu-jitsu you're not really allowed, you're not supposed to be coaching unless you've got like a whole wall full of all of these medals. But the problem is the person that can usually get those medals is like your cousin that's just got this awareness of where to put their hands and how to move their body and how to do that.
Mhm.
So then a lot of the moves, they're just body just automatically learned. They didn't really even figure out what they were trying to do. They just accidentally did it.
Mhm.
So those people actually, it's not that they can't explain it. They just never had to actually learn what to do. So they're just like, "No, but you just do this. You just make them do that." So they don't really learn. A lot of the time, the people that can coach better are people that have got like an actual analytical brain like what you've got. It's
Yeah.
like it was hard for you to learn, but then once you had to understand all the steps and realize that you were trying to achieve this by doing those things, it was hard for you to learn it. But then now that you actually understand what to do and you can use it in rolling, it's like you can explain it backwards and forwards and inside out, and you can watch anybody of any body type doing it and just go, yeah, you're not doing that. So that's why you can't get to there. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, exactly. But this is why I think, again, it's different approach, different explanation, different body. And I think the advice that you said about being your own coach, trying to see for yourself, I'll definitely take that on and trying to be more conscious of what's this and that.
Mm.
Um,
100%.
and then after, I guess also it's repetition because sometimes you do a week or two of something and then you move on and then you don't repeat anymore the other thing. And then I
Mm.
mean repeating in the way that, uh, especially on white belt, sometimes you do movement, but the person don't put some strength. They don't put a bit of resistance. So it doesn't really work out. Like sometimes I want to work something, but if you don't actually give pressure, then what I'm trying to do won't work because I need to push you there. You need to put your hand. If you don't put it, then I can't work the other side, for example. So, but in the same time, uh, like the when we do techniques, we do spar and things like this, but it doesn't become mechanic because every time the situation is different.
Mm.
It's not exactly the same knee slide. The person don't have the hand at the same place, and so I think it's a balance between this. It's a balance between being in a setup where you repeat the move enough in order to be a bit more natural, but in the same time having a diversity of fight in order to see that the position is not that only that like
Mm.
context. Not everyone has their hand around your neck in like grabbing under your armpit. Maybe they mistook, maybe they're actually on the other side around and then you have an escape or something like this. But
Yeah.
you need to see this many times, and I think this is why I like also doing competition is because in competition you also do with someone that really don't know you and don't care about hurting you and is going to
Yeah.
try to pass. Because even at the
Yeah.
gym sometimes like I was sparring with a colleague of mine and he was going to pass but I was keeping and the teacher was giving him advice and then in my mind I was like, okay, now I heard the advice and so I let him work on that advice, but my friend was like, no, you heard the advice in competition, you will hear the advice that the other coach is giving, so you should, okay, you know that you should have done that, then you prevent it.
Mm.
And so my mind was more about trying to give my colleague the opportunity to work out the advice. But in the same
Mm.
time it's true that that's it. I heard it. It's my mistake also. That shouldn't happen. So I need to work on my defense or on my counterattack or whatever. And then we need to practice both of us. And if one fail and miss it, that's it. Next time. So
Exactly. No, awesome. Well, we should probably wrap this up because I've got another
sure.
meeting I've got to jump on shortly with. But man, before we go, like, did you have any question or anything that you wanted to ask or about traveling and jiu-jitsu or anything like that?
I don't have particularly a question on like traveling in jiu-jitsu in the fact that I've the chance to see that it's possible. So
Mm.
I'm doing it, but maybe I'll be happy if you could share with me, or maybe if we could make a list of cool places, welcoming places, and maybe we could build a map together on like what are the gyms that you've been and a few
Mm.
places that I've been that are we are nice people because like everywhere, I think there is places that are more welcoming than others. There is
Yes,
places um, that are just more business than people, and my point is more about people than just purely business.
yeah,
Obviously, I know, and this is why also, like for example, when I talked to you about Lucas at Level Jiu Jitsu. I was like, the place is small, it's cute, it's nice, the person are welcoming. Then if I can talk about them to other people and people go to train there, it's more money for them and it's great, like I
definitely. No, I appreciate that. And so what's your Instagram page is Jiu Jitsu on the Move or BJJ on the Move?
Yeah, BJJ on the
That's
move.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically the idea of that people that work remotely could go and train at different places. I still have to figure it out the idea of promoting.
Yep.
I watch also Globetrotter BJJ. I need to
Yes.
make a seminar with them one day. But they are doing only seminars. My idea of BJJ on the move was more you're traveling, you need to go to a place that is welcoming, and then you can train with people there. And maybe if I manage to meet a group of people that are big enough, I could do session, not seminars, but like, for example, people could come in Romania for a month, and then I help
Mm,
them to look around for discovering the country, the food, the culture, traveling. But in the same time, we could do special session. Instead of paying the monthly fee at the gym that I go, maybe we could have a special session just for nomads or just for the same group where people can
mm,
bond to each other a bit more than meeting people here that they might not meet again because people here are more sedentary and not nomads.
yes,
And then
yes.
maybe on the long run to have a bunch of people that follow each other, but they go to different countries, or they can go together from Romania months, Greece a month, and then they might separate and then come back in September in, I don't know, in Morocco, for example, or stuff like this. And then vision on long term, but it's just really a long term vision. If it happened that one day I get a black belt, maybe I'll be able to do those classes instead of
Awesome.
being able to just using other gyms. But right now my mind is just more, I've met nice people over the time I travel. If I could bring them 10 people one time a year for training plus, that would get more money for them, and also it good experience because we could have local people showing us around and stuff like this, for example. So it's a lot of different nomading and BJJ idea combined together. But
Definitely. I love it.
and yeah, and also as a white belt, I know if a place is welcoming or not because some places might be more competition only or high level only, or they want famous people. I don't know. Right now, the people I've met were very, very welcoming. In Italy, the two places I tried, and now I'm going to go to Tenerife a month and a half. I'll try to go to different brands also.
Yeah.
There seems to be like Tenerife Jiu-Jitsu seminar, so I might go for a week of seminar for, meet people and see what is actually what do we do during a full week of seminar because I never did a full week seminar. I just did like one night seminar or like just training, but nothing full on.
Is it like a morning session and a lunch
I
session
think it's three
every
session
day?
per day, they say. So
Two
yeah.
sessions a day is a lot. I've done like 5 and 7 days of twice a day, and it's a lot. 3 sessions a day would be.
Yeah, this is why I'm going to see, but I need to work also. So this is also why like I didn't meet much, but I know there is. So I'm trying to build this Instagram to meet them. But I've met a couple of nomads that are doing jujitsu and they train at different places. And some of them are really nomading a lot. Like I met a guy called Chris Reynolds. He does also a podcast on people that are doing business, millionaires and stuff like this, and he is in many countries, but he still train while going around.
Mm,
So I'm like, sometimes you're never sure. Like for example, Essaouira was really great, but for example, it was a bit hard to find. also the person is not a black belt, right? So
Mm.
um, like I think this is the information that some people might want to know. Me, I don't
Yeah.
care. I have plenty to learn. It doesn't matter very much for me. I think the fact that he opened something there and there was something for where I could train was amazing for me. But maybe you as a black belt might want to meet up also with people that are black belt also, and continue your learning instead of you being the guy that travel and teach, just depend on
Mm.
what you look for. So I think maybe a place where people can set their expectation before and see if it fits with what they're looking for, something like that.
Mm, definitely. Yeah, I love the vision, man. That's awesome. Yeah, and also, yeah, let us know if you've got if you need a hand with like anything in the future or whatever, just drop us a message and I'm yeah, more than happy to teach a class or a seminar for you or anything like that.
Yeah, sure. It'll be great to meet somewhere. Like,
Mm.
I also like um, see those guys that this new brand of like tatami or something. They can inflate it and train jujitsu anywhere.
Ah,
Uh,
flow space mats.
yeah, yeah. And
Yes, yes, yes.
and then I was like, that could be a cool idea to have like our own, like co-living place somewhere where people could train in the co-living or something, like like
Definitely.
I don't know, obviously it's big ideas. I want to do the step one at a time, build, as I said, with when I'm advising clients is step by step. So right now it's just I'm showing to people we can travel and train. Trying to mount video as good as I can on that. It's not really
Yeah.
my job, but I do my
It's
best.
tough,
Yeah,
eh?
yeah.
Especially when you're a bit nervous about going. You're like, I wonder if it's safe to go in here. And so you're like trying to record yourself as you go in. You're like,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I'm not shy to talk to people, but being face camera like this, it's a bit weird to me, but
yeah,
trying to do my best on that. And then, and it's great. You see, I went to Essaouira, I liked your Instagram, and then we now got to talk, and I think it's really like the basic vibe of like the nomading and BJJ. Like this is the both groups of people have the same vibe, so I'm sure there is people there. Also,
mm,
BJJ is one of the growing sport in the world with MMA, so I think there is more and more people
definitely.
that might join us on this journey.
Mm,
Yeah, that's mainly this. Maybe the only
100%.
question I would ask you is like what do you do? Like I see you're nomading also, so like do you just do
Mm.
that or do you have another activity on the side and then you know
No, I'm actually what I'm doing is helping actual gym owners to like run their gyms like easier because a lot of the people that own gyms are just like guys that have like competed and then they're just wanting to make it a thing. So they've got their brown belt or their black belt and they're like, right, time to open a school. Then you get all the walls painted and you set up the mats and then open up the doors and there's not enough people to really get to really pay the bills. So yeah, so I'm helping people, guys with the marketing and just things like culture and how to bring people in. Because also when you've been training for say like 10, 12, 20 years or whatever, you forget just how scary it was when you first went into a class and what it's actually like. So I just remind like there's a lot of reminding people, hey, this is how you actually do it. So that's my goal is to do that with like a lot of people and help make it easier to like actually spread jujitsu out a lot so that then when you go traveling there is more places to train at and they are like more welcoming to go into and it's easier to like yeah see them because like a lot of people as you'd probably be aware their Instagram profiles make it a bit hard to even find them and you got to try and look across onto Google Maps and that kind of thing, so
Mhm.
that's another thing that I just say, hey, make it easy for people to find you.
Yeah, that's exactly
So
what I
like
told you.
that.
Like
Hmm.
many places I found they are maybe on Google, but they barely have a phone number or at least not even a WhatsApp number or something. It's just like a plain landline, or they have a website, but you have no information. It's not even translated. But okay, let's say translation, you can use Google Translate, but anyway, but at least to have the schedule, like I need to know when you train, if and potentially the price to at least know if it's in my budget or not, because depending on the country, some some places are more expensive than others or things like this. For example,
Mm.
when I went to Italy, it was a struggle for me because a lot of places were actually closed during August.
Ah,
And so the guy that I did a private class did it for me. He was doing only private class during August. He would not doing group classes. And the other guy was still open during August because he was also preparing for a competition, ADCC Italy or something like this.
yeah,
And so he was continuing training with a bunch of guys, but we were like four or five.
yeah,
Uh, so because in Italy most of the thing is closed, and this is something you want to know. If you really want to train during August, then don't go to Italy, like
mm,
or contact early on to make sure that the place you're going is going to be open, for example.
yes,
And
yes,
and I think it's definitely some detail that people need to be advised because as you said, doing being a trainer and a black belt in BJJ is another job than being online on Google for business and doing your own marketing and stuff like this.
100%.
So definitely that's great. And this is why like I think for example that could be something we can combine if I manage to grow this group of people that are interested and then make class to new owners. Like for example, we could bring them their first customer as a trial, for example, to see how they handle a class, to get them feedbacks, because also people in the non-nomad community are used to give feedback to co-living, to people they are do business with. It's very much in the culture to give feedback, to fill feedback forms. So it could be
Yeah.
a good bunch of people to go to train and in the same time to get actually a feedback on. And if they are diverse, they can give, oh, in Italy we do this, in France we do this, in Germany we do that,
Mm,
or whatever, or in Brazil we do that, and things like this. So yeah, hopefully we'll see in a couple of years. It's not personally, it's not like a job at the moment because, as I said, I'm a software engineer. But I like to transition to a more personal business if I could be around people, like have this kind of win-win situation. I help people,
mm,
I facilitate, and in the same time, it's a profitable business where I can be with people instead of just computers. That'd be great.
yeah. Yeah, it gets a bit old sitting on the computer all day, doesn't
I mean,
it?
I like it, but I'm missing this part where I'm interacting, and I mean, today was great. I mean, we had great conversation. Now it's good
Mm.
to exchange and give me other perspective also, and thank you for that uh, listening to my point of view as a one
Yeah,
year
I
and two
appreciate
months
it.
white belt BJJ practitioner. So
No, that's awesome. Right, mate. Well, I've really got to run right now,
sure,
but I
sure.
really appreciate your time, and I'll let you know when I throw this up online.